keep going with this, but we're gone live. There we are. We've gone. So we're now discussing a hat. I think this is the first time we've started this discussing a hat. So it's been in your buddy's house, yeah?
Since 2016 in London. He's been storing my bag. It was in Greenwich at one point, and then I don't know where he lives now, somewhere. And yeah, this hat was acquired on Koh San Road in Thailand in 2016. Very sober, and I was just saying, like, this. I showed up to the office with this, and they're wondering where this from.
It beats this?
Half. I mean,
half the end. Yes.
Yeah, but exactly. So just to show to your hat. Now we use this head. This is actually relevant to what we do. We use this head to form ATD testing and figure out where the contact points are and what orientation the drone. But it's now received a proper hat for storage purposes.
Oh, very, very good. I mean, things need to be done properly, and that seems to be evidence of that. So, very, very good.
We're changing, and we never did things properly before. Why are we changing?
No, not us. No, in the parachute. No, I mean in the parachute testing department, they're testing things properly with the covering thing. And to start with a fashion item, maybe that's what we need to start with every time now. I mean, we haven't tried that, so there we are.
Well, I can give you some history on it because I was down in Asia in that period. So Thailand in 2016 was when the old king died. So that is probably because of the mourning, which lasted for a year. Okay, and then they buried him in the biggest funeral ceremony you'll probably ever see, and everybody dressed up in their finery, and it was the end of an era. A very interesting guy, actually. And so I'm pretty sure that hat would have been part of 2016. Would have been part of the funeral.
So the funeral happened in October. I was there in June. And I just had missed a large water fight, I believe, on Koh San Road.
Yeah, it's called Songkran. So it's the annual throwing of water at each other.
So that was in April, and we got there in May. I spent a month living in Koh Samui, so I wasn't that much time in Bangkok.
So it sounds very, very boastful, but I have a very small villa in Koh Samui. So I lived in Asia for 10 years.
Okay, really? Where in Koh Samui?
On the west coast. So it's I love Thailand, and trying to do all things aviation in those parts of the world was very interesting. So we did a project to redesign the Bangkok airspace. Bangkok being the most visited city in the world. So any problems that airports have, most cities around the world, you can just multiply by several times for Bangkok because the number of people coming in. So you end up with some very interesting problems in Asia. That's before you even get to places like India and China. They're fascinating, but they're growing gangbusters. Both over 1 billion population, this massive emerging middle class. We have Ryanair over here and EasyJet, and they consider those to be small airlines compared with AirAsia. These sorts of things. It's a fascinating, super high growth area with lots of different issues, but lots of opportunities.
Shall I tell you about when I taught the first balloon pilots to fly over there? But anyway, no, let's not go down that road. But I did, and I flew to the centre of Bangkok. It was when Thaksin Shinawatra was the prime minister, and it was for him. It was for Thaksin, or however you say it. I don't know how you say it. But it was
I think he's just returned from exile, actually. It was a long time out of the country. Mobile.
It was
president.
Yeah, well, and one of the things they offered to pay us with he says they didn't have cash, and they said, "Would this box of jewels be okay?" He's like, "Well, I don't know the current exchange rate. No, I don't think so." But anyway, there's another story. Well, look at that. We've gone 4 minutes, so we've not even started.
Are we finished yet?
We finished, nearly. Yeah, I think so. We're finished now. Yeah, we weren't finished before. We're finished.
Oh no,
now.
Ian hasn't had his say. That's the rest of the show. The rest of the hour.
That's right. So, Neil, not Niall, and we'll come to Josh in a minute. But chip in here, Josh, because I think this is relevant as well. And I have been arguing. Well, we haven't been arguing. Well, maybe we have, but we haven't been arguing. Let me put this up here. Over on the best place in the world to argue with people, which is LinkedIn, and it sums up to this airport, Nottingham Airport, needing or not needing, but potentially being closed. And well, it would be a great, if you don't know the UK, it's pretty well positioned, and it would be a fantastic place to have urban air mobility and things like that. But yet again, I don't know what it is about general aviation. They really don't love us in any angle. And of course, pretty much everybody's into flying and really loves flying at the end of the day. And I think there's a great potential for small airfields all around the world to be saved, in effect, by drone deliveries or other stuff, or at least starting there. And personally, I think that's going to happen before we all jump into flying cars, because I don't think flying cars are happening in my lifetime, and I do not understand it. So I wanted to have Neil along just to give his part of the argument, or explain that better than I just butchered.
No, I think you did a pretty good job, actually, Gary. So what I was saying, well, I know Martin Robinson, who's the correspondent in the discussion. We were at the Royal Aeronautical Society after Farnborough Air Show last week, enjoying the delights of the terrace and each other's company, and chewing the ear of the DFT and CAA at the same time. And I said, look, what is it you want out of this situation? Because you say you're not getting anything and you hope the new government's going to give it to you. And he said, well, we really want three things. We want a sustainable network of regional airports. We want more engineers, and we want paid for pilot training, so it doesn't cost people a fortune to learn to be commercial pilots. All sounds perfectly reasonable. And we've created this thing called the Shared Airspace Council in the UK now. So we've met formally, I think, 10 times now. We push out bulletins. We have a website. We have representation from all airspace users, the military just coming on board. And it's basically a forum for people to talk and to share their issues and differences and concerns with future flight coming in. And so I thought, well, actually, we could probably help you with that. I've run ATC at a few UK airports. It's, they're all struggling for cash. As we know that, you have to pay to fly your drones one way or another, various different people. I'm sure if you brought these into some of the small airports that I know, this would help you not only provide an income for them, but I think the difference with GA, and it's never binary, but a lot of drones are taking things from one place to another. Even air taxis, you're going to get your EHang flights around the bay to get things started because they're very early out in the whole ecosystem. And, we can discuss that as well. But most people want to fly from somewhere to somewhere else, from their office to the airports, from the city centre to wherever they've got to go, the next city, that sort of thing. It's by nature routes. And that's when you're going to start needing these small airports. And if you look at the south of England, southeast of England particularly, every single small aerodrome is threatened by a housing development. I think there's one that's extendable out to 100 years. All of the rest of them hang in the balance, And,
I think threaten's a slightly harsh word, but I'm thinking it from the fact we do need housing and where it's to go. And unfortunately, with your Nimbus of the world, it's always been impossible to build anywhere except for something that had a previous purpose. So that's why they would, an airport would be, I suspect, an easy target. Although with Labour now changing the rules and making it easier, maybe that will
that's changed.
The pressure off.
It's changed today. So they've now got the idea of ugly greenfield sites, which maybe an aerodrome is. And that's something, but no, they all want to be built on. And there's the thing about Labour is it's 1.5 million homes. So I think that works out at something between 180 and 190 homes per day since the clock started ticking when they came into government. So they're already up to a few thousand homes they're supposed to have built so far. I haven't seen any of them. So there's going to be
the unfortunate thing is, I should go too off topic here, but I fear they will do a lot of terrible flats and use that to bump up the numbers. But yeah, that's not how we should be doing housing. But I fear that's maybe the figures.
I'm calling from central London now, and when I walk around the city, there are lots of A, offices that should be converted, and B, proper brownfield sites where you could actually build something. And every time somebody puts a proposal up, the banners come out on the buildings opposite, the residents associations get up in arms, and it's not just people living in 5-bedroom detached houses who are the NIMBYs. It's actually everyone.
Yeah, I mean, London's a different situation because it's so built up, and I think majority of the accommodation is flats. So yeah, you'll get people in flats going, that's blocking my sunlight, for the other one that's going to be neighbouring it.
Yeah. So I think the aerodromes are under pressure, and they're going to come under a lot more pressure as well. And the costs of flying GA are just going up and up. So Hyle have raised all of their fees in Scotland, and the GA communities reacted by not flying. But when you think about that strategy, that's probably not a great one either, because if you stop flying, eventually you stop needing an aircraft, and before you know it, that you've killed the whole ecosystem.
If only we had somebody that was based on an airfield that would have an opinion about whether the airfield he was based on would be useful in his context. If you could have, because the point I made poorly on that LinkedIn comment, I'll put that LinkedIn thread. Oh, have I closed it already? I know, there it is. I'll put it in the comments if anyone wants to go over there and argue with people. That'd be good. Is that there are plenty of machines now that will deliver 100 to 150 kilos that you can go off and buy. It's okay. We're short on the regulations. That's the bit we're missing. But there's plenty of machines like that. And I'd like Josh, after we've been to Bruce, to sort of speak to whether it would be possible to parachute, or what his thoughts on safety is for the larger, creating safety for those larger platforms. But I mean, in Tokoroa, if you had 150 kilos of something, would that be useful?
Well, when you consider we've got rail and we're on the main highway that runs the length of the country, I think road freight is a lot more efficient. And there's nothing that really needs to be traveling, with an urgency apart from perhaps medical stuff. But even then, we've already got helicopters and things, emergency helicopters that can do that. So you got to look at it and say, well, what is the impact versus the value? And if we can't even fly our recreational drones BVLOS, I still having trouble wrapping my head around how we can fly 500 kilo drones in the same way. And that's safe, but a 250 gram Mavic Mini is not safe. I mean, in America, I've just seen the FAA crowing about how they're going to do this Section 29 or whatever it is for BVLOS flight. And I'm thinking, I don't know of any recreational flyer who regularly does BVLOS illegally that's been involved in the formulation of the regulations and the things involved to make this safe. They've got people who have never done it working out how to do it safely, while the people who have been doing it safely for decades are sidelined because you've been doing it illegally, even though no major property damage, no deaths. You've been doing it safely for over a decade, but we're not going to listen to you. We're going to deal with the people with the big wallets. They know what they're doing. And so there is a place for, replacing small, what would you call them, freight flights with drones, but certainly not around here because we don't have any freight flights coming into the area anyway. Yeah, and as for our airfield has been a number of times they've rumoured it's going to be turned into a housing development, and they put a water mains under the runway. Why would you put water mains under a runway if you weren't planning at some stage to convert it into housing on the other side? But most of those air park things where they've turned airfields into air estates where you can build houses and hangars and live there haven't done that well, to be honest, because as we've already mentioned, aviation is getting so expensive. It's a very elite group of people that can afford to own and operate an aircraft, even with the move to microlights replacing GA. And of course, the maintenance burden is much lower. Our gliding club just up the way there has switched from a PA, Papa Pawnee, to a microlight for their tow plane. And so, but even so, recreational aviation is in quite steep decline, has been for years.
And that's what we were discussing, which way does it go? Does it come up with a strategy to kind of, unite aviators and work together to save these aerodromes? Because once they're gone, you're never getting them back. Or does it just die a long, lingering death, by which time most of the protesters don't care because they've stopped flying, and that's the end of it.
Well, this is a good thing. We live in a democracy where we have mob rule. So whoever has the greater numbers wins.
Isn't that what happened?
Well, except the greater numbers are the drone guys in aviation.
Yeah.
And
but the thing with drones is you can't mix drones and manned aviation. There'll be deaths. There'll be deaths everywhere. We've been warned. In New Zealand, you can't fly a drone within 4 kilometres of an airfield because it's just too dangerous. So how would you integrate them? It's just, I can't understand.
all the technology.
We all know that's not an issue, is it? The loss of these sites, and I think you said ugly brownfield sites or something, and that immediately made me have thinking, well, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Of course, all of us probably like the look of an airfield. Ooh. But
anyone remember the 1940 when there were airfields all over Britain? What a wonderful time to be alive, eh?
Absolutely, especially if you like the look of them. But that's why there's a whole network of 1940s infrastructure with decent wiring to it and hardened runways, even lying under fields to a certain extent and flat and all that. So if you had a reason, or if you could make the economic case for delivery drones for business to business, and that strikes me that would be the perfect place to put them, outside of town, but close enough where you can do something with it. Many of them right next to motorways, rail links, or whatever. But you are probably right, Bruce. There probably is enough density of other
the problem
stuff.
is, though, that when you look at the whole delivery thing, it's the last few miles battling the urban traffic that takes more of the time. On the open highway, you can travel at in the UK, was it 70 miles an hour? When you get into the urban areas, which connect you to the airfield, you're down to 25k, 20k if there's traffic. So 50% of the journey in terms of time is just a few percentage of the distance. So will drones actually make that much of a difference if they have to land at an airfield? Sure, if you've got hospital to hospital, that's great. But if you're using an airfield, are you going to gain that much?
Well, maybe not in Australia, but in the UK, that last few miles actually that typifies most of the country, definitely most of the southeast. So I think the big issue actually is congestion. So I mean, it's very popular at the moment to say I don't get advanced air mobility. Nobody's going to fly an electric taxi. It's all a big VC waste of money and the rest of it. But then you look at the money that's available in a place like Silicon Valley. I mean, it's money no object for some people, let's face it. And you look at the congestion that's being caused by it, and will people want to fly in a third dimension over that? Absolutely. When it's safe to do so, I think that absolutely makes the case. And then I think you'll find that replicates. And this is where we were talking about Asia earlier. Asia's very, very interesting. You know, the whole thing with EHang, that everybody throws their arms up in the air and says it's ridiculous. These things are just designed to chop your legs off. How could anybody ever certify that? You're missing the whole point. This is about how manufacturing gets to scale in fast-moving economies. That's the story.
We're not missing the point in their case. The concern around them is how they've got there so quick, and the open source evidence that was there in multiple videos and multiple photographs, including at train shows behind the UI before they skinned it. You know, why has an eVTOL got ALTOLed? Why has it got acro mode? Tell me. You know, I want to know. You know, why are the eVTOLs that have got orbit? We all know why. And it makes a whole mockery of air safety in that. If we're saying nobody knows enough about software to say, I want to see the code, get it off your eVTOL, let's see it, stop playing games. That's what I'm getting at. You know, at the end of the day, everyone's so obsessed with, we've got to have this infrastructure. The future flying about and everything. No one wants to even look. People are turning a blind eye. Oh, I don't want to know that might not be safe. It'll integrate nicely into this UTM I'm trying to sell. You know, that's wrong. People should be saying, is this, you know what, just should be asking those questions. We need people, we regulators that know about software, they're asking the questions. They're going to put people's feet to the fire and ask the questions. And that's what concerns me here. And even the big boys, when you try and ask them, you know, all of these, you know, Joe B, Volocopter, the rest of them, they're all on Twitter. The CEOs are on there. Try asking them any questions. None of them, tumbleweed. They're using it like an RSS feed. None of them can even be quizzed about, and you should be able to. If you're a confident CEO that's got confidence in your product, you should be able to speak up. If you look like a Bobby from Manor, one of my first questions, I was hearing about the weather, durability of the drone in the early days. Why are you not flying it in the rain? And he had perfectly legitimate answers. It's just, have you got any open source software? Yes, I have. I've got ArduPilot, I've got PX4, and then we've got our own proprietary layer on top.
Stack, yeah.
So if he's willing to say that, why is no one else willing to discuss? And that's what concerns me. There needs to be transparency. Sorry, that's my rant.
He's got something to say. He wants to talk.
I have a suggestion. We should do kind of like You Think You Can Dance, but like You Think You Can CEO, and they should come on the show. It should be you guys sitting here, and there should be a list of questions on, and every week you either get invited back to spew your propaganda, or you get left to the dust and you get added to the dead man's queue in the back with the hat.
Only the brave ones turn up, and then they never come back.
Hey,
that's right. Yeah.
but Neil, the thing is, as Mick pointed out in the comments, we've already got helicopters which will do everything. I mean, just making it electric, removing its safety mechanism in the form of auto rotation, that's not going to make it better.
So, let me tell you about helicopters. In the military, they're called avionics, flying in synchronization.
Loose formation.
They're loose formation.
Yeah.
They're noisy.
Loose formation. Yeah.
They're noisy. They're environmentally damaging, and unfortunately, even though they've had a lot of risks removed, they're inherently unsafe. You look at how helicopters operate and how they eventually come down. They are not particularly safe aircraft.
The problem when we say that, though, is an eVTOL's worse. With at least a helicopter, you can auto-rotate.
Yeah, but you're comparing a helicopter at the end of 70, 80, 90 years of testing with an eVTOL, which isn't certified to fly. So that's not a fair test at the moment. What you've got to do is give them time to establish and become safe.
70 or 80 years.
Well, no, because it won't take that long. You look at the speed of progress now; it's way faster than it was when helicopters started in mass production. And let's face it, they're not really mass produced anyway. They're hand produced still. And I think this is a big difference that people haven't really cottoned on with advanced air mobility. Is that the big guys, the Hyundais and the rest, they were at Farnborough Air Show. They've taken a much more strategic view. They don't intend to fly for another 6, 8, 10 years.
Yeah.
But once they do, they want to manufacture at scale and to industrial standards. And that's why it goes back to the CEO argument. I think it's very, very important. Big businesses that have got really robust engineering processes and can achieve assurance and put those things in place can actually make, through industrialization, much safer aircraft than any. The risk with hand making anything is in human error. 80% of aviation incidents and accidents come from human error. And I know all the pilots will be throwing whatever at me now and saying, yeah, but I was tired or it didn't work and I pulled the handle and it came off in my hand. Yeah, but you're still using to pull the handle, right? So that's where the thing comes from. So it's not really right to say that hand manufacturing or making individual aircraft can be as safe as the industrial standards you can achieve once you've got that process highly commoditized.
Yeah, you
the biggest problem we face at the moment, though, is that we don't have the battery technology to support the kind of vehicles that they're claiming. The economics do not add up, and they won't add up until we get a significant breakthrough in battery tech. And there's no sign of anything like that on the horizon. So they'll be developing, but they're hogtied until such time as we have that battery technology breakthrough. Then it becomes commercial.
Yes and no. But I heard a presentation at Revolution Aero about 5 years ago now, and the guy they brought along was the wind farm guys. As what the hell have you got the wind farm guys to come and talk to electric aviation audience? And the point he made was 10 years ago, the batteries made no sense. None of these wind farms made any sense whatsoever, but they improve 6 to 8% every year. And if you compound that over 10 years, you get twice the storage. Okay, so 10 years in terms of aviation is a short time. And I'll give you an even better data point as well. When steam engines first started, the steam engine was
Most of my drones are steam powered.
Was 1% efficient, and that steam engine led to the entire industrial revolution. So I just don't buy the argument that it's not efficient enough and can't get there.
If you look at the technology, lithium is reaching about the limits of lithium-ion technology. We might get incremental percentage increases, but we need an increase by a factor of 2, 3 or more before we actually make these things economic. And that's not going to happen in the next 5 years unless there's some major breakthrough. Even then, you've got another few years to get it commercialized. And these things will happen. I'm sure air taxis will come eventually, but the timeframes we're talking about, we've got the FAA and everyone scrambling to get vertiports and all the rules in place. They're way ahead of the game. This thing, we're looking at a decade before you'll be able to economically and viably run an air taxi service, at least a decade. And so, that is a long time in any kind of planning.
I think one thing that frustrates me, if there's only point for a minute, I was trying to follow on the battery thing that frustrates me when we're putting all the investment at the moment, like with the Labour government, into the sort of the green energy. Because obviously this would fit in with green energy as well. Is you think when we put the world's resources, we put so many governments put resources into doing the vaccines, whatever you think of that, that research was done and whatever. You just think, why don't we put those kind of research into looking at batteries, into trying to solve this a lot better? The way the market is at the moment, the way the incremental improvements, even if they are there, they're very, 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 very slow. And I mean, Bruce is right. I mean, EHang's own, if you get their own documents and read them, for an example, they quite make it quite clear that really the cost of the product actually is nowhere near as cheap as you think it is. Because I think it's 300,000 or something. But you would have to have probably a dozen batteries over the year, and they're most of the cost of the vehicle. So you have to have this big supply. Oh yeah. I mean, they're literally quoting out of the same life cycles as a normal drone battery. Which again, these are theoretical maximums of about 500 cycles. In reality, if you're running it every day, you're not going to get anywhere near that. So even then, you might get down to a couple of hundred cycles for argument's sake, and the economics stack up less and less and less and less. And I'm just frustrated that we don't tackle that problem first. If you're going to put money at this entire strategy, my third thing would be, let's put a lot into batteries and solve that. And that'd be a great thing for the UK as well, to be an innovator in that. So that was just my thought.
Is it Tata?
Does the UK want to be an innovator? This is the thing. I think this is a big question.
That's a big question. That is a big question. But I think if we to sort of round this one, I do want to ask just about how we're going to stop killing people with big delivery drones. To sort of sum that up, though, it would be a really good idea if we had some big flat open spaces with some huge sheds and sort of infrastructure in them. If we're going to play any of this game, it'd be really handy to have a few big open areas just outside of town, but not
horizontal ports.
Horizontal ports. Yes. But do you know, Bruce, the annoying thing is, if you were to brand it horizontal ports and put up some renders and do some stuff, suddenly it would become a good idea. Suddenly it'll be a good idea. Horizontal ports. Right. Quick, someone write that down. That's that. Horizontal point. It's brilliant.
Like the Labour government is trying to think of a new name for future of flight now, because they obviously can't have future of flight because that was the old lot. And then once they got a new name, they start it all over again.
Unfortunately, that is so many things. It's so many things these days. It cannot exist if it doesn't have 6 or 7 different names.
We must spend millions rebranding. That's the secret.
Yeah.
Secret progress.
Absolutely. So, Josh, those big delivery, what's the largest size machine you currently have parachutes for?
Sorry, horizontalport.ca is available if you want to buy it for $1.99.
No, can I have .com? Can I have .com?
.co. Be one of the plebs like us. .com's taken. Oh wait, .com might be available. .com for 1 penny. .co for 1 penny. It's all up
for a penny.
Probably, yeah. Go, Daddy, go.
Wow. Okay, Daddy.
If only we get AI involved in this.
Oh yes, oh yes. We're missing. And don't forget blockchain, and don't forget this, and don't forget that. What's he got in the background? Mick Malloy saying Flight 2.0. Well, where would we be in flight if we're going? I'm moving away from Josh. That's an interesting thing there, because I think we're probably, I don't know, what version of flight are we at really? Because there's nothing new in aviation at the end of the day when you look at it.
Oh no,
all the way
McKinsey
back
told
from...
us 11.12.
Oh, did it? Is that where we are? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, they probably did. Yes, they probably did. So anyway, back to that question, Josh. Yes, there's back to the report. What's the largest drone that you've got a parachute for at the moment?
So we've done up to 80 kilograms. One thing, so no, none of us speak American, so we're good. 80 kg. So that's the biggest we've done to date. One thing that we're seeing in the market, though, is as a parachute vendor, I want volume. You know, these guys that are building the 100, 200, 300 kg drones, like, they don't sell volume. Now, next year in Canada, we're going to BV loss, low risk. And I think if you pulled up a map of Canada, you could see, okay, BV loss drone operations make sense when, you know, you've got First Nations and remote communities. I can show you a use case that we did last summer. And, you know, part of the problem was the drone we were flying couldn't do a proper mission set where it couldn't fly far enough. And we were flying under the existing rules under 25 kg. But yeah, so we've done up to 80 kg, but we don't like the large drones because the volume doesn't make sense. And for our business, whether you produce 100 or 1,000 units, like, it still takes the same engineering time. Yes, the bigger drones, you got to buy cranes instead of nets and things like that. But like those costs are marginal, where, like, you know, drones that sell volume are all under 10 kg, under 15 kg, right? Like even the 25 kg drone delivery platforms, like, they're producing what, 100 units maybe for their current operation. And so for our business, those aren't as exciting, I guess. They're not sustainable, to be honest.
Fair enough. That's a really good answer. That's a really good answer. And we should bring up, or I should, again, with my, as ever, amazing preparedness, bring up that this is your big news for recently.
Yeah. Well, this is the ASTM. The other one that you had, I think you had up there the other day this week. This is one part of the recipe. So the big piece that we had this last week, I guess, is after we submitted in September 2021. So how many months that is? We had our declaration of compliance approved. Let me see if I can find it.
Yes.
So the declaration of compliance has been a piece of that we've been working on. Yeah, so we submitted in September 2021. So X amount of months, years later. Here, Gary, I just threw it over in the chat. I don't know if links show up when I post in the comment section.
Yeah, no, in the chat, no, they don't. Not always in the comments.
Okay.
Share this tab instead. There we go.
Yeah. So what this means is this is a change for the U.S. market. For Canada, we've been doing it this way since 2019. So it's interesting that it's exciting. We were hoping it shouldn't be. And I think we're at the point now with a lot of these announcements where it's like some countries have already adopted this work. And basically, if you buy the drone with the parachute that's gone underneath the combination of testing, you can now fly over people without submitting a waiver. So that's important for the pilots. I'm going to throw you over another link if that's okay. That gives you
okay.
Yeah. Click on this link. This will walk you through the process. So basically in the US, if you want to fly a drone over people, you need to file a waiver 107.39. This waiver, basically, you justify to the FAA how you need an exemption from the basic rules. But what the FAA created was a rule set that if you fall under category 2 or 3, you can fly over people without a waiver. So if you go to the next page, this product is the first category 2. Category 2 is you can fly over open air assemblies of people. To the right, there's a little button. I think you can click view. And basically what this means is you don't need to ask the FAA's permission to do your mission. So if you're a construction site and you want to do volumetric monitoring, you want to do progress updates, you want to do security, and you're flying within line of sight and you want to fly over people, you would have had to apply for a waiver, wait 90, 120, forever to get approval or get denied. But now, because we have done all the testing, people who purchase this drone with our parachute can make a declaration, and they have to fly within our parameters. So category 2, 10 mile per hour winds, category 3, 13. And that's a key differentiator there. Is category 2 is more lenient. You can fly over open air as assembly of people. Category 3, you can have higher winds because you're flying in like restricted access site. Maybe you're not hovering over the open air of people. You're continuously moving. So there's some risk mitigation. So basically, the first one that was approved was the Ag Eagle SenseFly. That was done in about 2 years ago. That's a 1.6 kg max tow made out of foam. It's not going to hurt anybody. This one, there was, I guess, some movement in the FAA where they were really hesitant on parachutes for a while because maybe some of the other ones weren't very good. I'm not sure. But basically, they contacted us last year on our application that we had submitted in September 2021, like I said. So 2 years later. And then we got this pushed through and props to our engineering team and partners to getting that done. A lot of work, a lot of money was spent, a lot of crashing of drones. And so this is kind of, and I think I've spoken with Ian and Bruce about this before, about the Assure study and the work they were doing with crash test dummies. And this is some of the work that we would have to do with these drones. So we go crash the drone 45 times, show that the parachute works, gives us the descent rate, and then we go do this crash test dummy. Ultimately, what the FAA is doing is saying, instead of making all the work on the pilots, instead of doing all this paperwork, all this bureaucracy, let's make the manufacturers do it. And by the manufacturers doing it, you guys can have an easier system. So we took that on as, I guess, punishment for ourselves. We didn't know what we were doing and found out that it was a lot of fun for a few years going through this process. And so what this does for us, though, is any clients we work with, we now have a means of compliance. We can make declarations of compliance, and we can help them move through that channel faster. So, we work with Brink, Skydio, partners with DJI on some of their products, not all. And so basically what this means is when we work with these drone manufacturers, we can give them a clear path to flight over people. So, it took X amount of months, whatever today is versus September 2021, to get the second drone, but you'll see 3 or 4 more drones on there, maybe 5 this year. So you're going to start seeing the market having options. You'll have DJI, American drones, and then other drones that we may be working on. So it's good for the market. Yeah.
Do you think the market knows that? Do you think all those contractors know that?
You know what?
A difficult one.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, the FAA came out with new rules for their means of, for their waivers and simplified it. So if drones were under 3.5 pounds, something in normal people speak, and if it was that weight of drones, you could. It was almost it wasn't a rubber stamp, but it was a very streamlined waiver process, which we thought was kind of funny that they came out with that in May because our means of compliance was approved in April, and we're like, great. Now the market's going to be confused. Yes. There's a bunch of people who are pushing on the waivers, which is great because it's educating people that they can go over people, and there's some requirements. But the thing with the waivers is like you need to have prop guards, you need to still file the paperwork, you need to do this extra work. Whereas because we have done all the extra work, you have a clear path. So we've done it now on the M3D. We did it on the Mavic 3 Enterprise. We did all the parachute testing last week. And the Mavic 3 Enterprise, which is interesting, it's going to catch the Mavic 3 Thermal, but it's also going to catch 2 more drones that fall within that class. And it's not DJI, obviously. It's our green friend. And so you've kind of got this. Yeah. So you've got an assortment of drone options. And so I think once the Mavic Air, right now we're getting a lot of inbound requests. People are really excited about having alternatives to the existing option. And like whether you agree or not with DJI ban and all the political funness, they make a great drone. And for a commercial operator, you can pick it up and it's going to work. It's just like it works. And so I think when they see the Mavic 3 on the list, it'll really start sparking. And then we're working with some drone marketing YouTuber influencer type, like a guy named Billy Kyle. He does a lot of stuff. We'll give him a drone and he'll go fly over Philadelphia, and you get the Karens online saying you can't be doing this, and actually I can, and this is how. So we'll be doing more educational content, and I think that really is one of the things that we're seeing is people don't realize how easy it is to fly over people in Canada. Have the right license, have the right drone, have the right safety system, go ahead. And this is what's coming in the United States and Europe, and the UK is almost there. You've got your BSI Flex that's working on standards for that type of operations with SORA 2.5. But ultimately, it should make the drone service providers, the police officers, the firefighters, the engineering firms, the corporations that use drones a very straightforward path on I want to inspect this. What are the wind limits? That is really the only variable that you now have in your mission planning, which gives them that predictability, in our opinion, to go do their job and make a profitable business.
So you can be spending a lot of money advertising in Builder's World or whatever it's called and stuff like that, and Surveyor Daily or whatever it's called, in order to get that. So that surely is where your message needs to be.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we sell to dealers, right? So we don't sell as much to end users. Like we do, like we work directly with Chula Vista, but like police department, but we don't deal with as many direct. It's really our dealers. And so what we're finding is, how do we support the dealers on getting this content and educating? Because they're the ones that are hitting the ground and they're going to the trade shows. Like if we show up to a trade show that's non-drone related, it's like, oh, you're just like a parachute. I want to see the whole drone. Whereas if you go to commercial UAV or AUVSI, you don't want to see the DJI because 17 booths have DJI. You want to see the niche products. So this is where it's a little bit different. And this is where I think the onus is on us to support the dealers and helping them get the message out and creating that content, creating the use cases, and just being everywhere online, showing that you can, like, you know, if you're in the States and you buy the parachute with the drone, go fly over stuff that people think you shouldn't, and do it legally. Don't do a PB loss. Don't do it above max tow. Do it within the wind limits. But I think there is an educational piece. And it's kind of funny that a rule that's been out since we talk about so much rules, so much bureaucracy, but this rule's been out since 2021. You would think that there's a large group of people like banging against the wall saying, when can I use this? And it's starting to be there. And I think there's some people online like the Drone Service Alliance. They've been doing a lot of work on it, helping their members get waivers and educating people that there is a path. And I think that there's some more there that ultimately, if I don't have to wake up Sunday morning at 5 a.m. to go fly my mission, I can just do it on a Tuesday afternoon. I assume the pilot's quality of life is going to improve drastically.
Yeah, that's almost your sales point, isn't it? And are you gonna? I was thinking, you know, Martin Baker, the ejection seat people give people a tie if they use their ejector seat. Are you going to send some? Yeah, if you use a Martin Baker seat, you get sent a tie. So you could have something for every real use of the parachute. You could send us something out to the operator. Should have a Google
invoice for repacking.
An invoice, yes.
Yeah, they do get an invoice for repack, but I wasn't going
to. The Martin Baker Tie Club. But
okay,
anyway, says yours. It's just it's a very old tradition, and I thought that's of the parachutey world. Neil sent me another link, and then we'll go into the long discussion with Ian stuff, because it's bound to be. There's another conversation that's come up on LinkedIn that was very, very good indeed, and that was from Stephen. And Stephen was going to join us tonight, but he can't. He's in a meeting, so he's going to join us next week to talk about this and having a. Well, as you can see, they put up some CUAS gear near Borehamwood, near not Red Hill, what's it called? Elstree, near Elstree, and saw 331. Anyway, lots of details there. I'll put this link in the chat as well, and we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, I'm going to say the interesting thing with that is that it's mainly an issue with the sub 250, which I think people. I've tried to raise this on like some of the groups, and people get really angry, and it's like, I'm not trying to have a go at you. It's just the reality is there's just too many people in that group that think because it's so small, the rules don't matter, and it's like, yeah, they still matter, Where people need to kind of realize that there needs to probably be a bit more education around that of just stuff like going above 440. You don't need to do it. And you are then creating a risk even with a drone so small. So yeah, that's just my takeaway from that.
We'll hopefully unpack that next week with Stephen a little bit more. And that education piece. Go on, mate.
Interesting thing, in Canada, the rules don't apply to sub 250, and I haven't seen any problems with sub 250. So is it really such an issue?
Well, I mean, the problem is if they're also there, you have to adhere to them. If you don't like them, you don't have to like them, but adhere to them. And if you've got issue with them, you have to go for the proper thing of moaning about it for the channels and not being listened to. But at least go for that process. Don't ignore them.
Yeah, I think in Canada we found that the sub 250 isn't killing anybody, and like it's a great tool to go and be a hobbyist and go. And I know guys at the office, some of them have just bought them themselves. They're advanced pilots, and they're like, I want to buy the sub 250 just so I can, the Mavic Mini, right? But I am aware that they've done some testing around airports, and those sneaky little buggers are popping up quite a bit within the 1 nautical mile range. Now, that's the auto police, I think, at the airport doing a study on like how much, and like you could see stuff on Christmas Day, someone grabbing a drone and going popping it up, and like, so you do still have some of that. Like, I don't think nefarious. I think it's just, and I don't think it's even being like screw the rules. I think it's people just like, oh, I got a drone, I can fly. Yeah, it's like
go fly it. Yeah.
I mean, in the UK, part of the problem was we made the FRZ out to 4 miles or so, and that was done very quickly. And although there's some people in the drone industry, when they asked them, it wasn't 250 wasn't even included. So people were asked for anything above 250, and then the DFT did a sneaky in the weeks after Gatwick and used a typo correction to change the entire structure and push it out, so include 250s. But the trouble is, you end up, there'll be hundreds of thousands, probably millions of residential properties caught in that. Someone should have had a proper think about that first.
I think the Gatwick zone was less than 250 grams.
Those people can't own a drone. They can't do a roof inspection or that without paying money at an airport where the mate down the road, another mile out, doesn't have to pay that fee. So the whole thing at the moment is ill thought out, and it's inherently unjust for that fact of you penalise people that are within it and not those outside of it.
I live this every day. So at our office, we have a test field that's across the street from an airport, which is fine. But we have another summer test field. So across the street from the airport is a golf course, and in the wintertime it's snow, so we rent it. And in the summertime, we go to the farmer's field. But I'm in the 3 nautical miles that I have to have everyone have advanced licenses by, I think, 60 feet. And so it's like right across the street of my farmer's other side of the field where the cows graze more. We can't use it because the cows are there, and we use the other field. But like, I have to pay for everyone to do flight reviews. I have to pay for everyone to do advanced license. Like, it adds an extra probably $2,000 almost per employee. And like, we hire engineers and we make them all become pilots because they should know what they're doing. And so it's something that, like, I've spent a lot of money just doing flight reviews on 60 feet. If I could just be on the other side of the street, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, no, it's definitely something on, like, we actually see it. Like, I can look on the cross and be like, oh, there's some money I would have saved, but I don't own a farm.
The interesting thing I noticed about that article was Chris Crockford popped up and said he did a test over, I think it was a power station, and there was 181 GA infringements over a smaller area.
Yes.
So it's great for a counter UAS organization to point out how many small drones there are, but this is actually happening all over the place. And we're still in Future Flight 3 in the UK. There's still none of the TRAs are authorized and have gone ahead. We're still meticulously going through the paperwork and crossing every T, dotting every I, saying, what about this? What about that? Trying to basically what I call atomize the BV loss problem so that every last little piece of it is looked at and made entirely safe and risk-free. And then on the other hand, I'm afraid to say, of the regulator, you've got what can only be described as a complete loss of control in the airspace. So how is that in any way equitable? How in any way can you have all this risk of people not complying with a set of rules? As far as I can see, no policing at all. And then on the other side, you can't even get drones flying because somebody says, but what if, somebody steps onto the footpath in the field below where that drone just might go with the wind changes direction. It makes no sense to me at all.
And by that you mean it's when you need to parachute, but the enforcement of the GA stuff, because it does to me. It begs people. I don't think people realise just how woeful the low altitude radar picture of the UK or any country is, simply by design. Simply by design, because it's just the way it is. It's a big old metal rotating radars. If you put a hill in the way, it doesn't see over the hill. So I think people have an idea that air traffic control can see birds taking off from trees 50 miles away. And they don't realise that the low level air picture is really, really poor. And we need I'm getting on my high horse, but we do need a modern, digitized, secure sky. I don't mind RID. People mention RID. I don't mind RID if it's part of the air traffic picture and for safety. I don't mind RID. I mind RID if it's just for trying to a tax sort of case. RID doesn't increase safety. But
as long as it's just secure as voter records in the UK.
Yes, absolutely. But Nats wouldn't want people to look closely at lower airspace to see just how many infringements there were, because they'd have to be shutting Heathrow all day long if they look hard enough, because every time there's an infringement they have to shut the major airport it's near. And that's
just one thing that's slightly off topic with you mentioning that. Yeah, that there are airports that have closed down due to drones being turned on in hotel rooms. Because they're just looking for the counter drone ping instead of checking, is it actually moving? Has it actually got altitude? And this is all the stuff that just keeps getting buried as well, which I don't like. There should be a lot more transparency about these things that are known to happen. Because all it will ever be is they'll go out in the media, drones close down the airport, blah, blah, blah. And it's not the drone that's closed it down, it's bad process.
Well, it's the police.
And transparent is my favourite colour.
If you look at the Gatwick incident now, that's now been classified as a national security incident. So we can't tell you what happened. Even though we know Surrey police were their drones being photographed there. Nobody else saw this alleged drone incursion for all the tens of thousands of people on the airport. And it was all very embarrassing because when the police first went out, they decided it would be a good idea to shoot it down. And that's against aviation law, interfering with an aircraft in flight. So all your police constables and sergeants would be up in the dock. So having covered themselves with all that embarrassment...
I've got to say, 1 minute, just a little while back on that. That was their story, but actually the Home Secretary approved from police pressure them to be able to shoot down. So they actually were allowed. They had the key there. The reason they didn't do is because there was nothing to shoot down.
There's nothing to shoot down.
It's one of the little facts that they wanted to bury.
Argument that they subsequently got permission to do something that it shouldn't really be doing in the first place for something that didn't exist. But I think to cover the whole thing in
blanks.
I used to D-Notice Committee. It used to be in one of the offices next to mine in the MOD. I knew the admiral who ran it. And I've known several things that you're not allowed to talk about and not allowed to have in the print or any media in the UK because they've become a national security issue. And this has allegedly become one of them. And I think
are you saying somebody's done something?
I think the main thing it's covering up is embarrassment, because I don't see any evidence of anything else more harmful.
So are you saying you've heard something that someone's recently had this classified, or that's an impression you've got?
I've been told by somebody who's in a very influential position to know that the whole incident now did happen. And I said, well, go on then, prove it. What's your evidence? Give me something, because I think it was a lot of fuss and nonsense and misreporting. Can't tell you about that because it's a national security incident. Yeah. At which point you want to giggle very loudly. But the thing is, it beautifully ties off the problem, because you're now not allowed to talk about it because of national security. And that's the opposite of what should be happening, in my opinion.
No, it is. I mean, as much as anything, it has broken down trust. The drone community globally does not believe that there was anything that... I mean, it's literally impossible that something is flying about and you've got a police officer here seeing it and a journalist next to him with the correct equipment, with a camera that can see in the dark, and he's not seeing it. Or he's looking up and saying, oh, yeah, I can see that, but it's a National Police Service helicopter. So it doesn't add up. No, it couldn't have been being seen by one set of people. And again, even the National Police Air Service with their thermal up in the sky didn't see it. So you're not telling me that a guy on the ground with no training, no airspace knowledge has seen something someone in the air hasn't. So yeah, it's really frustrating because with that lack of trust, that's going to persist. And it really just needs knocking on the head and just becoming clean up what happened there. And it's not good anyway when we've had someone seen in the DFT tweeting that they're going to go, the mates down the pub, they'll tell them what really happened. And what kind of country have we got when people can go down the pub and tell the mate what really happened, and normal citizens are not allowed to know? It's bonkers.
Yeah. That's all right. Let's quickly jump over to red card time. Indeed. Let's quickly jump over to this, and you can explain this. I presume you want me to go straight to this part of it, Ian.
I'm trying to think which one this is. What is this one?
This is the shoot down. This is the shoot down.
Oh yes. Although this one is quite annoying actually now, because this has been going on for about a year, and I asked for an internal review, which is 40 days max. I think that's being generous. They've dragged it out. They've just ignored me for 6 months. So I've just given them another nudge, and I'll be going straight to ICO after this and on to tribunal if we have to. But it's again, this is frustrating. We had a Mini 2 shot down with a shotgun, and it's like, oh, what's happened? Why is they just said the case is closed. It's closed. It's been shot down. You're basically saying.
It speaks to what Niall was saying. Neil, sorry, Niall. I did it. I knew I'd do it. Sorry, Neil. But yeah, it speaks to what you're saying about shooting. The shooting down, and will anything be done? No, is the answer. It won't.
Yeah, I mean, but my questions are on there. We're really just saying,
look at that. My dog died, or ate homework, this, that, the other.
If you start at the top from what my initial questions were, because they were all perfectly reasonable. They're all perfectly reasonable. So it was just like, is the case still in progress? And then it's like, as the individual that shot down facing any charges, was there any damage done as a result of it falling? Or what's the individual licensed gun holder? And when they charge you to drop out, those are all perfectly reasonable questions to ask. And there's nothing that's, I just invite anyone to say to me how any of those are unreasonable. And given that none of these have been answered other than one.
Shouldn't number 4 be like the focus of the question? Like shooting, I know you're not in America, so you can't just shoot shotguns randomly. So isn't that like an item that a local police would want to be aware of, that someone's shooting?
Well, yeah, they will have gone through this and know, but that's really important, because if you're not a licensed gun holder, then what you're doing with a gun out in public. If you are, you're expected to be responsible, and being responsible isn't taking your gun out and being a vigilante. So even if that drone pilot is breaking a rule, I can go to any box junction on any road in the entire country and find somebody breaking the rule, breaking the law. Doesn't mean I can just bring a gun out and start taking pot shots at the car. And that's essentially what we're allowing in the sky. And then it's the fact that we don't even get to question it. So with this one, I'm going to push it, because it's a fundamentally important question. Are you letting them off? And then if it's at least then they can say, yeah, that's their choice. But we need to know either way, because then people could think, maybe we've got an issue to address here nationally. Let the powers that be know that someone needs to have a proper think about this and put out, for example, this would be a perfect one for National Police Chiefs Council of saying, well, if we've let this guy off, we really shouldn't be doing that. And let's put out some guidance that says what you should and shouldn't do. And anyway, number 1, again, we'll go back to duty of candor. We should be having some bleeding transparency, period. So that's my rant on that.
But maybe the thinking is it's not in the public's interest to make this in the public interest. So what we're going to do is not talk about it, so that more people don't realise they can get away with doing it. So that's why they're not answering you. They are all perfectly reasonable questions, but if we answer them, it's going to encourage more of the same behaviour. I think that's the problem they've got. Because if they haven't acted, I remember this, but I can't remember the full details. They haven't acted on this individual, then surely that's And you've got people like Jeremy Clarkson saying, well, a drone flew over that stupid farm that he runs. Sorry, I'm not a big fan. And I want to shoot it down with my shotgun. So, well, I know the Home Secretary might think it's a good idea. We've had a few buffoons in that role as well. But if you're encouraging people to break the law, then expect it to happen. On the other hand, don't encourage people to break the law.
Yeah, I mean, as well with this, it has the longer term implications. Once you're saying, oh, we'll let this one slide, eventually someone's taking a pop at a delivery drone.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Like mopeds.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. You shouldn't be having a pop at anything. It doesn't matter what it is. As you've said, the fact it's a drone is neither here nor there. I thought I'd trying to get this. We've just gone over the hour, so I've tried before because obviously we've got to get to Ian's 40 minutes. I thought this was interesting that this one particular lot are using a graffiti artist to differentiate their product. I thought that rather speaks to we're getting quite standard now. And the other one I wanted to mention was this one that all of Philips products are blue and NDAA now. That's all the GPS and all the flight controllers. So that's quite big news for Philip. So those were the things I definitely wanted to say before I forgot to say them.
Won't those who got this whole blue list stuff and the issues with previous list here link and everything,
the really expensive blue ones?
Yeah, does this basically blow those problems up and gives people a clear pathway now for Philips stuff?
I'm not sure here links on there. It's just the flight controllers and the GPS.
Okay.
Not sure. I don't honestly know the answer to that on the here link thing. Because I can't remember. But yeah, the controllers. But yeah, if you bought one of those really, really expensive blue-colored ones, I guess it would make you, make you work because you've spent anyway. Because the ones he had to have made in America when it all started, and he still does make them in America, doesn't he? As well as India and Australia, I think. Australia and Taiwan. FPV7, I'm not saying how long for now. Yeah, I've had some questions about all that actually, but that's another thing. So we've just gone over the hour. Is there any more for any more?
You should know there is because I put some stuff in the private chat.
Oh, what have I forgotten?
Oh, I think you got. Oh, this is just Stop Oil Wandsworth people having a look at from today.
Oh, yes, that's underneath. That's underneath here. That is underneath here. I have got that ready to go, and it is that one. There it is. Yes, how to close an airport. Is that what you were trying to say?
This just goes again back to the previous weeks where it's, the simplest ideas are the ones that always work, and you can just cause disruption to an airport. And again, if you're a terrorist, that you bang some chemical in that, you're doing that is. A serious incident that's going on, and they've been able to get that far. In fact, in the end, they actually just sit down. They've got the photo op they wanted, and that's them done. And that just shows really that your real security issues are just where people can actually just walk in and mingle. And all this focus we've had for years on drones and all the money that's been spent on that, it's kind of a distraction to the fact that when protesters really want to cause a problem, there's a million other easier ways of going about it.
Put ankle bracelets on a lot of them, remote ID, then we could track them
on their drones while they fly around the field. Why aren't they using drones to spray it? It would be way more effective.
They could use Swellpro because the Swellpro drones are orange and you wouldn't even see the paint. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you wouldn't see them going by, would you, when they merge with the orange? Oh, yeah.
And Negris with a tanker full of orange.
What would happen if someone showed up with 20 Mavics and just turned them all on at the same time inside Heathrow? Never went and checked in, just went into where you check in and just turned them all on. Is it
you would have the police on you in no time from the CUAS.
But that does well. But why do you need to turn up with 20 Mavics? You just turn up with
device.
Use 20 ES with ER. Just turn up with 20 of these.
It all. And one of
you
those you have 20 drones.
And this is supplied by horizontalport.com, brought to you by SUAS News.
Horizontal, yeah, that's right. Yeah, t-shirts and everything. Yeah, the whole lot.
Coffee mugs.
Coffee
mugs.
By
the way, but because we're all getting old now, and I can't remember.
I speak for yourself, mate.
Did we cover the prison rejections and approvals last week?
No, we didn't.
On the new form.
I don't think we did. I don't know.
Well, we could do that quickly, and if we did, then people will
go on. Then. All right.
It's a second link down in the private chat.
Private chat. Second link down in the private.
It's below his OnlyFans page. It's the one after that.
That after his OnlyFans. Well, I never close that. I mean, that's an open window. I mean, you wouldn't want to do that. All right.
My drones only have fans.
There you go. Oh, very good.
I'm here all week, folks.
Yes, he's here all week. Are you seeing that now? Yeah, you are.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So I've gone back on this one with a few questions, but it was initially answered, which is here's a good example for that certain police force of how you answer freedom of information. So the questions I were posing were there was a change in the law where now you have to request permission if you've got, I think it's within 400 meters of a prison or thereabouts. And this is frustrating again because whoever thought it was a good idea to have a process that takes 30 days to get an approval? Well, that's where we are. And with the British weather, you haven't got a chance of predicting the weather that far in advance. But if you scroll down and whatnot, we've got them in here. I put it in here in the next question.
Yeah,
I think we should a bit further. Yeah, that's yeah. So I've gone and asked a few questions from there. It's actually the percentage when you look at them that rejected. It's about 22%, 23% that haven't made it, which is quite a big. Obviously it's early days, but people that tell me that are filled in that form, it's a really unpleasant form to do. So again, why hasn't somebody looked at this before it was actioned and thought, let's actually put a test out and see how many are successful, because people clearly aren't quite understanding it. But worse than that is if they don't understand it, they don't just come back to you and say, could you just clarify this point? Oh, you've missed this. They wait till the end of the 30 days and just reject it. And it's like, what? Yeah. So that's why people are frustrated with it at the moment. So only though there's only 5 that were given a blanket rejection. Also, I'm interested on those, but it's just those failures. This kind of in this day and age, we shouldn't be having forms. It's probably firing off to an email that goes somebody's inbox and be sorted out. It should have been done properly if you're going to place this as a procedure. Because if you're taking away, people said already, well, I'm just not doing the job now. So I'm sure this will improve, but it should have gone through a test period.
Poor implementation. Well, I think we do need to really find the proper numbers for the revenue the civil aviation and the authority in the UK is getting now out of the drone core. The numbers are much higher than GA and all sorts of other air users. So it's time to get the money, because it's okay to pay a little bit of money, but there's got to be something back for this. We really are getting the short end of the stick now. There's no training. Everyone says, all these new flyers, they wouldn't do it. They're training. Well, there's money there for training, surely, or information, safety stuff. We're not seeing safety stuff. Nobody wants a dangerous sky. We want to see a safe sky, and the CAA needs to go to the party.
Sorry to I just thought, but we've just got an opportunity here, haven't we? Since Neil's on, we can ask him a question. Have you heard any rumours about RID going? Or being
yes. About RID, remote ID.
Oh, RID in the UK? No. We've got Americans asking us how to solve the problem because it hasn't been solved for them. But is RID coming to the UK? What rumours? I think
no, there was rumours that it had been parked, but they are purely rumours.
I know there are certain factions that would like RID. I don't think they've made their case. So I suppose, in a sense, it is parked. Do you get any value from having it? As Gary said, not really. I mean, there's no real safety value in it if it's part of your solution. It strikes me as a moment as just one more thing that you could ask for and something else that needs to be fitted into the architecture. But do you need it? No. Is it sensible to park it? Yes. Has that happened and they're not saying so because they probably argued for it earlier? Quite likely. But then again, it's going to be like, it's in the public interest that you don't really know this, so we're not going to say one way or the other. So there you are again.
That's definitely a red card statement, Neil. That is such obvious. That's a red card. That's so obvious. That's a brilliant statement. That it really is. That's a brilliant statement. Well, we do know what 600,000 has been spent on it so far, isn't it, Ian?
No, that was just the Home Office. Then there's 1.2 million DFT. And that was, I don't know if you know Neil or not, but that was just for 6 months' work, design work, 1.8 million.
Well, there's been no shortage of tech companies that would like to produce this. I mean, it's a nice project, but like any tech project, you've got to ask what the goals are at the outset. And if you're not clear on those, if you don't state clear goals, how are you going to achieve them? I mean, it's such a fundamental business thing. But then maybe the people that are ordering it have decided not to behave like a business. We're just going to have one because we want one, and that's where the argument falls down.
Yeah, I mean, we covered it last week, but it was there hadn't been it hadn't gone out to tender. It was claimed there was only one company, that could deal with it, and it was built on, unsurprisingly, Gatwick and a load of dodgy police incident counts. So it wasn't the strongest of cases.
I think you just lost your argument, on the basis of what we discussed earlier.
It's much better to set your goals afterwards because then they'll be more aligned with what the results are.
What? Yes. Oh dear.
Claim success.
Isn't it terrible when you hit a point in life when all that is? Oh yeah, of course that's how they do it. It's terrible, isn't it?
My only concern is it doesn't get used as another excuse to waste another year or two on the path to integration. A lot of people putting a lot of effort into getting, people talking to each other, working out their differences, solving small problems, find ways to integrate together. We don't need another flipping great big red herring to come along and distract us all for another year or two, because we'll end up integrated, but there's really no value in just wasting time on that journey. That's not in anybody's interests. So by all means, have an RID if you want one, but first of all, make a case for it, like anything else you would in business. Simple as that.
I think pillow fights are greatly underrated as a resolution method.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly when you chuck a couple of bricks in for the appropriate targets.
Snooker balls.
Let me just get, and then we'll make this the last thing, and then we'll go. But this was the thing. There was the what we found interesting was the business units redacted. It was a single. Where's that killer? There we are. RID will unlock additional revenue streams, making it cost neutral, and for in the longer term is their wording, not mine.
They did a similar thing actually on the page after that. We probably should have included as well, but I didn't click until after the show. But they were talking about we'll be able to do loads of apps and stuff, and so it was just trying to very, very vaguely say, it'll all come good in the end.
Yeah, and there's your 350,000 drone operators and the 13,000 incidents which we've debunked, and then CA estimate the cost to be 10 to 15 million.
This I mentioned this last week, and I was even far. I didn't realise even with the figures I had how far off I was. So this was really quite naughty. In their case, they suggested that the US had spent or was planning to spend 29 million, without saying actually that the what happened in the US was DJI paid for an independent, so that's important, an independent analysis that was done, given back to the FAA. The FAA even thought it would be £500 million, but it actually came back. It was in the billions. It was 500 million per year for a decade. And that's what it was going to cost. And that's why the FAA said, we ain't doing this. And that's why they've got the solution they've got now. So the solution in the US, we don't like it because it's got the NIMBY factor. But other than the reason they chose the one they did was based on the costs. If you had what they had, well, to be honest, someone should have just mirrored aeroscope in an open thing, because that does the job, doesn't it? But yeah, we didn't. So
it does. So that's we've managed to get the RID conversation in again, and I'm going to put the hammer down on this one. Going once, going twice. Whoa. Just an hour and a quarter to get away with that. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget 2100 Gin and Tonic next week, when we'll talk more nonsense. We'll talk to Steve about his positioning of sensors and what he found out in Boreham Wood. I shudder to think what one could find out in Boreham Wood. See you all again next week. Cheers for now. Bye bye. Thanks for everyone for coming. Bye bye.